We good?
Yeah.
We're on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to call to order this public meeting of the Board of Johnson County Commissioners on this 9th day of August 2021 at 10 o'clock a.m. Please pray with us if you care to, and then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you bow with me for a moment of prayer, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this little bit of rain that we've witnessed here this morning, and thank you for the rain we think's coming later today and into tomorrow. Dear Lord, I'd just like to recognize a segment of our population today, our seniors. Many are suffering not only financially, but suffering from loneliness, care and concern. And dear Lord, I just pray that you'd be with all of those who are volunteering their efforts to support those people, the seniors in our community. And I just pray that their family values, their dedication, and their patriotism to our great country will be passed down to those who most severely need it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And first off, we'll have a presentation by Indigo Public Transportation presentation, and please keep it to 15 minutes, if you would, please.
I wasn't told to keep it to a certain time. That's all right, though.
It's the way we roll here.
That's all right. Justin. So my name is Ryan Woolheit. I'm the manager of special projects and regional mobility integration for Indigo. I was asked to present to you a little bit of background of the transition to Section 5307 funding. This transition is occurring in 4 counties outside of Marion County: Hamilton, Johnson, Hancock, and Hendricks County. I am the lead Indigo contact on this transition, assisting the different counties in transitioning from Section 5311 funding, which is called rural funding, and Section 5307 funding, which is called urban funding. I'm also assisted by Christy Campbell of RLS and Associates in these conversations as well. Just wanted to provide a little bit of background there. I have only a handful of slides. You're very lucky. I'm known as kind of a death by PowerPoint kind of guy. The reason is usually I'm explaining topics that need a fair bit of education. So I don't know who's advancing the slides. Who are the? Oh, great. This is great. Okay, perfect. So usually I get a lot of questions of why we're doing this transition. I'll try to keep it brief. I've provided a map and some graphs here. So in green is the urbanized area unadjusted. This is determined by the Census Bureau. This is an area that's considered enough density over a particular period of particular area to be considered urbanized. Everything outside of that within your county is considered rural. Federal government does not have a definition for suburban, so it's either urban or rural. Where am I pointing this thing at? I feel like it's okay. Okay, perfect. As you can see by this chart that shows urban and rural population by county, if you look at Johnson County, 140,000 people, 86% live within the urbanized area, 14% live in the rural area. This is not terribly surprising. Urban area tend to be where a lot of people are actually gathering. You have high density with apartments, etc. This is kind of the sticking point. So Section 5311 funding is for rural areas. NDOT manages that program. This is for trips that have an origin and a destination that are in either both of those are in the rural area or one of them in the rural area. When it starts to become that an area no longer has that balance, and when it's dominated by urban, that area or that needs to become part of needs to be funded through urban area funding. And that's what NDOT had told us. So this started a few years ago when it was investigated, and it was shown that trips within all these different counties were primarily urban to urban or some form of urban to rural, rural to urban. And NDOT said, Central Indiana, you need to transition from rural funding. We can no longer provide you rural funding. You need to transition. And they gave that task to us. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Planning Organization, with help from RLS and Associates, conducted a study that made some recommendations, and Indigo, as the agency to help these entities complete that transition, have been moving forward those recommendations. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of why we have to go through this transition as a region and why I'm here with you today. I get a lot of questions about this, so I'm not going to go into each point here into great detail. I know you've given me 15 minutes. I assume that's question answering too. Why are we asking you to be a subrecipient? We need to have a subrecipient for this funding. It needs to be a local public entity. The county's already performed the duties that are needed for 5311 NDOT program. And so the recommendation of the report was that the counties be asked first. So I've been doing that, kind of a little road show, if you will, going to each county and making that request. Okay. Why is Indigo involved? So you have to have a recipient from the FTA. We are a direct recipient, and so we can handle FTA dollars. We'll essentially just be passing them through to the counties in a reimbursement basis.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes,
Real
of course.
quick,
Yeah.
on that second paragraph there, why is Indigo involved? Where it says that the funding from FTA, but can pass. I thought that should be more of a must. I mean, you don't have an option of passing or not passing.
No.
Okay.
No. The way that we set up the process is so Indigo and CERTA, they're two direct recipients in the Indianapolis urbanized area. So we have a negotiation about that pieces. The subrecipient portion is determined by formula. And so that just goes under Indigo. We pass it to y'all when reimbursement occurs.
Yeah.
So it's not really a choice unless, of course, there was an issue in which the money wasn't spent. We don't have a process set up for that, but it's not a.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's more semantics than anything.
Yes, correct.
You might
Yes,
wanna
my
change
apologies. Yeah. When does the transition need to occur? So we've been told by NDOT that they will stop reimbursement January 1st, 2022 for trips moving forward. So they will no longer be providing 5311 funding to all but one county. There is a weirdness in Hendricks County, but everybody else is no trips moving forward from that point will no longer be reimbursed by NDOT. Oh, hold on. Woohoo. How much funding is involved? So approximately $600,000 of federal money. That's the amount that's been determined for Johnson County. There is a local match needed. I know we've spoken with the Johnson County staff about this, and so I've tried to provide some kind of list of items here. So city, town government, county government, you all receive public mass transportation funds through the state. So you already have that for local match. You can use non-DOT federal funds. Apparently that's not very common for local public entities to use that in the state of Indiana, but that is something that you could use. You can use charitable funding and then program income like advertising on the buses. It doesn't generate a ton of money, but it does generate what we consider kind of gold, which is local match. So that is something else. Fares are not considered local match. They're kind of this oddity. So essentially what they do is they reduce the net project operating cost, which does in turn reduce the amount of local match that you actually need. So one of the examples given, which is cut off our giant logo on these slides. My apologies, this is stock. I have to use this. So it's $100 budget. So $10 in fare reduces the total project budget to $90. And if it's a 50-50 grant, which all these operating are, you'd only need 45, not 50. So that is something to note here. I didn't want to get too in the weeds. This operating is 50-50 match. A capital through FTA is typically 80-20. So, but what I'm talking about right now is the operating side.
So are you saying that you can apply all of fares in here? You just say to net project operating costs, but so the entity, whoever we procure, could apply all of their fare revenue to the 597,000.
So the way I understand it, and I have RLS and Associates to help us with some of these details because I'm not as familiar with that side of things. The way I understand it is the fares help decrease the net project cost. So when we're turning in reimbursement, we can tell the FTA it's not $1 million, it's $900,000 because of the fares of 100.
Yeah, I understand, but net operating cost is different than what your example, the $10 fare reduces, in your case, the budget, which would allow for a 90% application of fares and then a 50-50 match. So that my question is, would they be able to deduct all of their fares off of the 597,000?
Let me push pause and let my brain catch up here. So if the budget was 1.2 million, right? Because it was 600,000 for the federal and 600,000 for local amount. But then you deducted the amount of whatever the fares are, that would reduce that amount. I'll have to get back with you, Ryan.
Okay, thank you.
Can you frame that question again? My apologies.
Yeah, I'll get with you. I'll
Okay.
email you. I got your email.
Okay, great.
I got one other question. When they determined to use the population, what basis did they use for that? Typically, you would look at the incorporated areas and call those the urbanized. In the case of whoever did this classification, did they use proximity or what? I mean, because we have a huge population in an unincorporated area, White River Township. So to give us that urbanized classification, how did they determine that what you're showing 139,654 people?
Yeah, so I'll explain it to the best of my knowledge. There is detail in the NPO's RLS report in the back about how the Census Bureau determines that. But essentially, there's a core, there are core census tracts, I believe at census tract level, of a certain threshold of density. And that forms the core of the urbanized area, and they look outside of that. So it doesn't look at the incorporated area, it just looks at the different census tracts and whether or not they meet the density threshold, and it's determined by the Census Bureau. There is usually after the decennial census, there is an opportunity to slightly adjust the urbanized area, but it's tinkering at the margins. It's nothing to deal with the bulk of it. But there's more detail in the report about how that's done. The adjustment is done at the local level, but like I said, it's at the margins based on my understanding. The rest of it is Census Bureau level, and it's just all driven by the statistics that are there and the methodology.
It'd be interesting to see that because I think Johnson County, I know out of the 4 counties, we're unique in that regard to have such a highly populated, at least a densely populated, unincorporated area. All right. Thanks, Brian.
Yep. My apologies. I don't have much more. I know that PowerPoint slides can sometimes feel like they go on forever. I just wanted to real quickly say, so our role here, as I've said, is support. Indigo has a team, so myself at the lead, we have in-house attorneys, we have in-house grant administrators that have been helping set up essentially templates for the counties to try and make the procurement part of this as easy as possible. This is probably the most intensive part of the whole process, is doing the procurement for the services, but it is something that's done every 3 to 5 years, so it's not done annually. We also hired RLS and Associates. They are available. They've been setting up meetings. They're there in part because this is the first time we've transitioned this, and in part because getting a hold of FTA can be time consuming. And so RLS and Associates has experience, and so if there are unique questions, we can ask them. They handle the statewide contract for 5311 with NDOT, and they handle other contracts nationally. So they've got a lot of experience in compliance. So if there's questions that you have about it that I can't answer, they usually can, and pretty quickly. And then we're responsible for oversight and monitoring. So that means we just make sure that everything is going well, so that when the FTA comes in to do an audit, nobody has any findings. And that's it. Then I've got contact information and questions.
I've got a few.
Perfect.
And what my first question was is I've been hearing a lot about the local match and what is true, and you're saying our local match is going to be basically $600,000.
Yeah, we put together a budget for each county. I can't recall off the top of my head what that amount is. It's approximately that, correct?
No, it's not six, it's 290 some thousand.
Yeah, so you get PMTF money that comes in as well. So that reduces the amount of non-PMTF local match that you need. And then you'll have advertising income that comes in from it as well. So I think I sent that information to,
Yeah.
okay, perfect. So, yes.
So according to this, our local match burden would be $348,738 estimated, correct?
If that's what I sent, then that's what it is.
On the timeline, it's an awful tight timeline to January 1st. And I guess, why is that so tight? The federal government's never moved quickly in their lives. Why would they start on this? Whenever I see something like this move in a speed that it's moving, it's so they can get something done before you find out what it really is. And I'm just sorry, that's just the way it works. And you know as well as I do, that's the way it works. So
Yeah,
I don't like things being shoved at us to make a decision. Is that timeline, is that concrete, or is that going to be extended? Or
yeah.
we have to make a decision whether to activate or deactivate our system at that point in time. And that's, I don't think you're giving us enough time, or somebody's not giving us enough time to make that decision. Because if I have to make that decision right now, it'd be deactivate and just not go at all, because I don't like the timeline. I think that we need time to investigate and do some things on our end to see what it's costing us now, what it's going to cost us, and why. And I don't think we're going to get that done by January 1 to make that drop dead decision.
Yeah, that's a fair question. You'd need the history behind it to understand why it's not a quick timeline. So this was kind of discovered in 2017 or 2018, the disparity in the trips. At that time, NDOT requested that the region move almost immediately to transition away from rural funding. They only gave us about a year, 6 months. The MPO board sent a letter to NDOT requesting that they give us additional time. And in that time, they would commission a study and look at ramifications and then do the transition. So this date is set by NDOT, but it is about a 3-year reprieve approximately. I don't trust my memory as much as I used to. I didn't have a very good memory to begin with. But that's kind of it. It's not imposed by Indigo. It's something that NDOT has told us and has reiterated many times. January 1st, 2022.
In that, I guess there's a lot evidently we have to look into and that we have to do. Is basically NDOT saying that the access Johnson County and the way we use it now doesn't work? Is that what is it broken?
No, they would not put it that way. I don't believe. What they would say, well, let me push pause. I'm not going to speak for NDOT, but what I would say is by rules and regulations, they're not supposed to be dispersing rural funding to areas that are primarily providing trips to an urbanized area. So that's a problem. So as soon as they can, either through plan or through action, they have to move away from that. So it's not that the system is broken, it's that by rules and regulations, which just exist on paper, they have to stop doing what they're doing and move away from that. They get audited by the FTA too. So that's part of this as well.
Would we have to find this match money before we put out RFPs or put out the RFPs to the vendors to give them the responsibility to get the match?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And it's one that your staff posed that we had not really received up to that point. I had not expressed to any of the counties that was something that you needed to do. Your team asked if we needed MOUs or anything of that nature. I am of the mind to be consistent as possible. I have not said in the past that you need to have all of the funding present before you do the RFP. We are looking into our responsibility as the pass-through entity when it comes to that local match. I would say for this first year, we're probably going to be given a lot of leniency for what happens. To your point, we are moving somewhat quickly. This is new, and it's meant some changes that have been difficult to digest. I would say, however, that it is a RFP and a contract. So there is some challenge there when it comes to how you deal with the vendor and how reimbursement would occur. So that if you're providing service, if the vendor is providing service for the year, but you do not have money to reimburse, it's not as though Indigo has a pot of money to be able to also reimburse them either. So that would have to be part of that. None of this, had really been part of the discussion up to this point, largely because we were working through a set of recommendations that just included a set of get a sub-recipient, get a procurement, et cetera. So the requirement the local match be provided up front was not something that had been given a ton of consideration. What we have said is you get PMTF money, so you have local match. It may not be the full amount. I know it's not the full amount. These not-for-profits have been, I term it hustling, so to speak, to get match for this money. So there's a little bit of a gap. I have advised my team that we have been consistent around the region and not discussing an MOU and not requiring that all of the local match be present at the time of the RFP. I think it's been implied, however, that all the counties have enjoyed the service that's been provided, and any reduction of local match would mean a reduction of the service that's provided in the county. So that's the best answer I can give you. I
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I guess I don't want to get into collection of money to find these matching funds and going to these different places. I don't know anywhere where in my elected capacity that I ever thought I would ever have to do something like that. As a business or an entity or a vendor, I can understand that, but basically this burden is going on us to get these funds. I just don't think that's not something I'm willing to do. And I don't know about the other two, but I'm not willing to go out here and beg and ask for money to support something that's not broken. And I just don't understand why or how this has been set up this way. And you can probably explain it to your blue in the face, and I'll still never understand why it's set up that way, because I don't think anybody really knows why it's set up that way, other than the people that have put the regulations into process. But that's just a comment more than anything. I'm not a fundraiser.
Can I address that somewhat?
Absolutely.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm asked a lot of questions about why are you making us do that? And I say things like, it's not me.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm just a messenger. I will say it's not broken, but if you don't provide additional local match, you will see a significant decrease in service. And if somebody doesn't take over the 5307 funding for Johnson County, then and to become the local public entity, then there's zero service. But it's where we are.
Understood, but I guess in the realm of that, though, I would have to think that if someone in our county level, I guess, would be responsible to go find those funds, that it's telling me that we should anticipate budgeting these matching numbers from our budget, taxpayer budget, because I don't know how there can be any positive enactment of those funds without some kind of guarantee of backup to those. Am I thinking correctly, or am I way off base?
Based on my limited background in finance on that, I would say yes, that you would need to. Now, I will tell you what other counties have told me, which is that they are asking the towns and cities within the county to contribute. As you've seen, most of that urbanized area is covering incorporated towns and cities, as you might imagine.
It is.
And so I would, recommend that be at least a conversation with those towns and cities. Because, Marion County, we have those conversations with those that are not part of the city of Indianapolis, because we provide countywide paratransit service. So somebody's got to provide the local match. Who it is, that's a good question.
Well, as these cities and towns continue to annex and to spread out their limits, that's going to change yearly, if not monthly, depending on the expansion that they're doing. So I assume we'd have to be going back to these cities and towns continually saying you need to pay more because your limits have grown and the capacity of that use has grown. And again, if we become the bookkeeper for those funds, and I just don't think that's fair, and I just want to be upfront with that. I just think that's outrageous to ask a government entity to try to do that. But anyway, I think that could be done through the vendors if that's the way the RFPs are set up. But then, are you going to get a vendor that's going to accept that responsibility?
The vendors can't do that. That's the problem. I mean, that's part of the vendors are already, potential vendors are already doing that. So these not-for-profits in the different counties do fundraising. They beg for money from United Way and others. I think at one point, they're very creative, let's just put it that way, to raise funding to provide services within the counties.
And I know all this will have to be looked at by our legal counsel and make sure that it's legally proper. And I get that. There's just so many open-ended conversations we could have in this. And again, I go back to that timeline is so tight that are we going to be able to get all these questions answered prior to having to pull that trigger? And I just don't think we are. And I understand what you're saying, I think those timelines will change. And I think anybody with any common sense probably realizes they probably will, but there's no guarantee to that. And we're stuck with what we have.
I would tell you that getting them to change their initial timeline took a pretty big step by the region to do that. Getting them to change this timeline I would be shocked. I would be very, very, very surprised by that, considering the amount of time that the region has had in INDOT's eyes to look into this matter.
And then on I guess a legal census, or even just a moral basis, if we don't have the desire to go after the funding, as I'm not having the desire, what happens with Indigo as far as Johnson County? They go away, they pull out, they tell us to go fly a kite, take a hike.
I mean, I like flying kites.
Yeah, I do too.
We've discussed a little bit. I don't know. We'd probably look for another local public entity within Johnson County to to take up that burden. We don't want to see public transportation in Johnson County stop. We believe that the service that's been provided has been excellent. It's been critical for those who utilize it and depend on it. But that's a scenario that I don't like to think about, and I've had to think about it for 4 different counties. It's a lot of fun.
I think, it goes back to, if it's not broke, why fix it? And is this really a fix, or is this really more of a burden that's not fixable? And again, my thoughts, they're my thoughts, and that they may differ from everybody else's, but that's what makes me different, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to, if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's broke. So we either fix it or you
But
throw it out.
who broke it?
Well,
Johnson County, Access Johnson County didn't break it.
yeah,
They're doing the job. You just said they're doing the job.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Nobody
Scary
broke
thought.
it. Nobody broke it intentionally. How about I say that?
That-
That's our problem. We entered into, because of the growth of the county, and because of the rules of the feds, we are now playing under a different set of rules. So it is broken now, and if we don't fix it, then I either have to go to the other towns and cities and ask them the same question, or we have to say that there's the potential for no federally funded public transportation service in the county for next year and start the process over again. I don't like really any of these scenarios, to be quite candid with you, because generally I agree that it's a little strange that invisible lines and regulations are requiring us to do this, but they are. And a lot of my job is invisible lines and regulations. And so
And we're handcuffed to those.
and we're handcuffed to them, and if we don't follow them, we get handcuffed.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of my problem.
I understand.
So, yeah.
I think I'm going to stop there. I'm going to lengthen this out too long, and I already said not to do that. So, but anyway, thank you for.
I got one question. for
Of
you,
course,
Heather.
of course.
Our team that's working on this,
Yes.
this process is pretty confusing. You'll admit that, because I sat and listened, and these people are passionate about it. Our people are new. You're getting thrown a system that you don't understand. You said there was support from RLS.
Correct.
Is that a chargeable? If we contact RLS, are they going to charge us to review and help our people? So that's inclusive part of this process.
Correct. Yes. Indigo has paid for their contract, and they are paying to support the counties. We paid for them to help us set up the templates. We understand that the process is both straightforward and wandering. And
That's a good way to say confusing.
we have templates and a guide that we have set up to try and help that. It's new for all of us in the transition. We are working to answer questions that are posed by staff from every single county that are excellent. And that's why we have RLS. We knew from the get-go, Indigo staff, as much as we deal with this for Marion County, and as much as I am the program administrator for another federal fund, and I do oversight. In fact, I do oversight of Johnson County, of Becky Allen and her team, that we needed help in the transition. So that's why we hired RLS and Associates to help us. And they're there. They do not charge you. They answer any questions that you have. So that's what they're there for.
We could keep going on. and on.
No,
I think we'll stop.
Yeah,
Of course.
we need to get more into the weeds. I think.
I'm more than willing to meet at any time. I've told your staff that. They've been excellent. Sheena and Zach, they've been great. And I'm more than willing to meet and have that discussion. I'm more than willing to sit down for hours on end. I'm
I
really
appreciate that.
passionate about making sure that the service continues in the counties, which is why I come out here.
And I understand you're the messenger, you're doing what you're being told to do. And I don't want to ever make you think that I don't understand that. I just, and you answered most of my questions, and I appreciate that. But I just think we have a lot to think about, and a lot to legally, especially, and determine.
Of course.
what we're doing there, sir. But I do appreciate you coming in, and I'm sorry I took you over on time. I knew I was going to have a lot of questions, so
That's all right.
we'll go from there. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? Ron's getting more coffee, so I know he's done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'm always available. Thank you very much for your time and your consideration.
Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks, Ryan.
Franklin Community School Corporation High School Marching Band Group photo on courthouse property. Do we have it? Oh, we do have somebody.
Hello, my name is Emily Bradley, and I am the music department secretary at Franklin High School, representing Tim Kosh, who is teaching class right now. He is wanting to seek permission to have photos taken on the north side of the courthouse on the steps of the marching band on August 30th, which is a Thursday, sometime in the time frame between 6 and 8 p.m. We will just have the students in their marching band uniforms with their instruments. We're not planning on bringing risers or any type of props. We have photography by Bateman lined up to take photos. There'll be group photos and individual section photos. Some of the photos with instruments, some they'll lay down their instruments on the grass somewhere so they can have them taken without the photos. We plan on traveling to the courthouse via school bus. I'm guessing that we would probably have to park in the annex parking lot for it's a busy dinner time around downtown. It's kind of busy to find parking places, but we were just told we needed to seek permission to use your property for our photographs.
Do we need any type waivers or anything?
There's some paperwork I can follow up with if you approve.
Okay, and just so you know, for your information, there is some paperwork that will have to be supplied if this is approved today that you'll have to get taken care of. But I think everybody knows there's always paperwork. So.
Yeah, there is. I always fill it out.
Questions?
Nope.
Concerns?
Who to approve?
I would second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the evening. Thank you very much for your dedicated service to the Franklin community.
Thank you very much.
Health Department, approval to apply for Indiana Breast Cancer Awareness Trust, Inc. grant.
Hi, Betsy Swearingen, Director of the Health Department. I'm just here to ask for your approval to apply for the breast cancer grant for next fiscal year.
Vote to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, Betsy.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Have a good day. Planning and zoning approval of Dude Solutions subscription agreement. I can't get over that one. Dude Solutions. That's got to be some kind of acronym, correct?
No, it's dude. I mean, I call it smart gov when I talk about them because because we always just say, hey, dude, when we relate to them, but it's smart gov is actually the program. So late 2019 and 2020, we went under contract for a new permit system for our department. I'm sorry, Michelle Hanser, Planning and Zoning Director. And after trying to get this wrapped up and ready for 2022, we discovered that the user portal part of it was not part of the contract. And that is for users on the outside to apply for a permit from their home or their business instead of coming into our office. I think with the investment that we made on this program, it would be probably best that we have that part of the program for them to use. I think that was the goal. I think David at one time wanted to defer it to a later, just to see how the program would work in our office. But I think once we get this actually up and running, I would like just to get it full force up and running instead of taking it another year to get the user portal ready. So what you see about is the subscription cost for this year, and then the implementation and services to get that part of our program So it's a total of about $1,458 additional dollars to the original contract.
Who to approve?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Approval of Nightheart Service Agreement for the auditor.
Chris, can I? Pamela Burton, Johnson County Auditor. This is our approval of the Nyhart Services Agreement, which is our actuarial services for our OPEB benefits. We first did it 2 years ago when we implemented GAAP financials, and this is required for that.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, ma'am. Thank you. Clerk approval of No Inc. LLC agreement. Hi. I wasn't going to, but I didn't hear anybody move, so
You needed to move around a little bit.
Right?
get your steps in.
Yeah.
Did you
Now
bring
you
your
move to
protein
approve.
drink?
I did not.
Got a motion?
Move to approve.
No, I got it.
I-
We're there. I got a motion and a
We just
second.
wanted to see you get up and move around.
Any
Thank
further
you.
discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Trina. Hi, Brandy,
Morning.
Court Administrator.
Brandy Kirkendall, Court Administrator.
And this will be pending legal review for these. Correct?
There's a quirk.
Okay.
Is it really a typo? Pending resolution of the typo.
Pending resolution of the typo.
I would make a motion to approve pending legal.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brandy. Are all the new printers, copiers there? And I know things are slow, right? Animal control.
Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Bell, Director of Animal Control. Come before you this morning, first to ask permission to appear before the County Council tonight to recognize Ashlyn Smith, who is our first Gold Star Scout awardee for the project that she completed at the shelter. And hopefully you got some pictures that they forwarded to me and I
I
forwarded
did.
to you.
I enjoyed looking at those, sir.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries on that, sir.
Thank you. The second is amendment to ordinance 2021-0-11. And we've made, I know Sheena made some changes, I think, Ron, that I think addressed your concerns.
Thank you.
Second reading, by the way.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Michael.
Hey, Michael, that picture of Ashlyn, it's titled Hard at Work. I think she is. She's unloading the bed of a truck, looks like
Into
gravel or
wheelbarrow.
road rocks with a scoop.
I know, and we can't help her as part of the earning,
Yeah.
like an Eagle Scout. They have to do everything themselves.
Yeah, that's
And-
truly hard work.
Oh, her and her mom go to my church, and she's a tiny little thing. And doggone it, she did it.
But I see why she's tiny,
Yeah.
the way she's doing that.
Oh, God.
That's a lot of manual labor.
Yes, it is. And she did it all herself. And of course, with Gold Star, they have to raise all the funds, plan everything. And we've had, I think, 4 scouts earn their Eagle Scout badges with projects at the shelter. She's our first Gold Star.
Well, hopefully we're looking at a future leader
I
in
I think
Johnson
you could
County.
almost guarantee that.
I hope so. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Under Board of Commissioners, ratification for interlocal agreement between the County of Johnson, Indiana, the City of Greenwood, and the City of Franklin for the Justice Assistant JAG grant, which we do every year.
Move to approve, sir.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I would like to point out there, if you, I asked the sheriff this morning, the discrepancy between what the county receives in Greenwood. Normally, it's kind of the opposite. He said that's because they administer the grant
Right.
applications. So that might be some funding that we could apply towards our grant administrator when we get on board.
I like the thing. I like that thought. Don't you,
Like the way
Sheriff?
the ship's sailing.
Acceptance of lowest quote and award of contract pursuant to IC 36-1-12-5 for the east doors at the west annex. And for curiosity's sake, that's a replacement of the doors that we have the big gap in, and the flooring area right there.
So
will be a
the
part of
east
that.
doors of the west annex.
East doors
Yeah,
of
east
the
doors
west
of the
annex.
west
We had a
annex.
whole.
The main doors.
Just
Their
south of the
main
north
doors.
wall.
Yeah. Over there.
All right, you had three quotes. Duke Commercial failed to quote Suburban Glass Service, $9,380. And the low quote was CW Sneed, $9,028.
It was close.
Move to accept a little bit.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of New Tech Roofing Contractors LLC change order number 1. Mr. Harrison.
Morning, Commissioners. My name is Wes Harrison, owner's representative for Johnson County Construction Projects. And there's a change order in the works for the Juvenile Center roofing project. Fortunately, the roofing project is now complete, but this is paperwork we need to finish up for blocking that was not part of the original contract. It's unforeseen condition. They had about 1,600 lineal feet of blocking that was required. And in looking at their cost breakdown between labor and materials, overhead and profit, it appears appropriate. It's less than about $9 a lineal foot to install that. So I think what they have proposed is appropriate. So I'm asking that that be approved.
And I think we can probably anticipate this being the same for the other part of the roof that they're going to be,
More than
Doing-
likely, yeah.
just to get it out there so we're aware that it's there. And just information to the commissioners, we have enough in our GOB on that project to cover those change orders. So it's not a burden on that.
I will make a motion to approve and also state, since we've got someone like Wes on as an owner's rep, that it's going to pay dividends in the very end.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to catch things like that and not get caught on the back end, a few years down the road and we find all these discrepancies.
Of
and
course, I'm gonna jab
inaccuracies.
at them a little bit. We still don't know what that's costing us because we can't get a bill from the guy.
Get it done.
I talked
I
to,
tried. I talked to
I
him.
talked to Ms. Johnson this morning and it's in the works. So
Well, thank you.
She'll have it tomorrow.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much,
you
sir.
bet.
It's
Thank
like
you.
that check, it's like that check nobody cashes.
That's right.
Second.
I have a motion and a second on the approval. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much for all you do, Wes. I appreciate you more than you know. Discussion of non-compliant improvements at 48 East Madison Street, Franklin. And
I've
I'm
looked at,
familiar with
I'm
it.
familiar with it. I've looked at it. Do you know what it is?
No, I thought it was something we addressed before where the people to the north of them had poured a slab out there. No,
This is a different
This is a different one.
And this, I
That
mean,
whole area right there is tight, that sooner or later, this is gonna come up probably with every surrounding thing if they ever want to try to do anything. So
this is not impediment to anything. They're not going to add on to the museum in that capacity. 10 maximum would be probably 5 feet. It'd be 4 stories tall. So we're never going to expand into that space. And so I'm going to make a motion to approve it with what knowledge I've looked at it and actually walked the site and talked to the people doing it. And no harm, no foul, I guess.
And there'll be paperwork, I
Right.
assume that they'll be given
Sorry.
to make sure
Yeah.
they understand the encumberment in the process if they do, and if they would have to move
They'll have to
anything.
move it or tear it out
They
if
would know that's their responsibility.
So we are talking about the slab report.
No, this is a different one.
Right,
What exactly did they do?
They're getting ready to put in a deck walkway to get into the back.
Handicap walkway into the back of the
Into the
building.
back of the building, and they're in that, they're in their fenced-in area, which
Yeah.
is just, I mean, it's so close, and by picture, without creating a survey, they're within their realm to be able to do it anyway, but just in case there's encumberment, we want to make sure they're aware of what would happen if they need to tear it out, so.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion regarding letter from Morgan County Regional Sewer District. And I think both of you have seen it. A little explanation of that. And I know Commissioner West and I both have worked with Morgan County trying to be a part of that. The regional sewer district down there, as far as involved in it, as participation of operation of that. And basically, they've turned that down to any entity as far as a partnership. But what they are doing is, and this is, I asked them for this, is to give us a letter of cooperation to say that if we need services down there, that we would get a metered rate, discount rate for services to them using that facility, if in the future we would need to. And that's all that letter is. So it's not really a commitment to anything. It's just letting us know that that's available to us if we need it, sir. I know that's not what we wanted, but it's the best I could do.
So what you're saying is they're not interested in partnering at all?
Not at this point. That is, if you read that, that could change, you know, anything can change in the future, depending on probably usage and access and what we do. I think what it does is solidifies the fact that we're going to have to do some work on that 69 corridor.
Well, I don't know if they need to send us a letter to tell us that we could be a customer if we want.
I think it's just allowing us a discounted metered rate is what they're doing. They're a block that they basically set aside for us if we need it to be used. And I think it was just to let us know that they want to cooperate as much as they can, but the board's not going to go for a partnership on that facility.
Well, without specifying what that rate and capacity is, I mean, this is kind of a generalized,
It's just
doesn't have much meat to it, really.
just a letter basically stating we can.
Joe,
talk
thank
about
you
it.
for the letter.
Yeah, but it wasn't the outcome that I don't think, I
So
think.
it's a
any of us-
consensus. We received the letter.
Yes, yeah, and that's all it was for. It was just, I received the letter. I wanted to make sure that it was made aware to everybody and that we know it's there. Not the outcome that we really wanted, but
We can have some discussion. on
we
it.
can have some discussion on that, yes. I don't think the door's totally closed on anything, but discussion regarding engagement of Baker Tilly for the American Rescue Plan Act consulting services. And I know Sheena and Zach and I were in a conversation with Baker and Tilly. And they're doing a lot of this service for a lot of other people, and I think they're probably more adaptable and set up for us since they're doing work for us now and in other areas to do this. So I would recommend, from what I understand of engaging them.
We need somebody.
We've got to have somebody. We're not going to be able to do this ourselves.
And if you guys come to consensus that Baker Tilly can do the job and do it well, I'm okay with that. I'd make a motion to approve if you feel solid with them at this point. So you guys have had the meeting I had, so.
They're very knowledgeable. They're really on top of it, very helpful even without an engagement. I was really impressed with
Do they work on Indigo grants?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Is
they
there-
might.
We need to attach a rate or a fee. don't we? That's
It-
kind of open-ended.
By the act itself, by statute, it has to have a cap of $50,000. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
don't have an engagement letter yet, but it will have a cap.
It has to have a cap by statute. So
I will say several other counties are choosing to work with them as well and have a lot of good things to say.
Well, they've been to all, they've been to IACC, they've been to AIC. I mean, they're the ones that are really predominant in speaking on the ARPA. And the bottom line is it's so difficult to deal with. We're gonna have to have somebody. We don't have the time nor the capability to get learned in that in time to do anything with this. So
It will be working together with them, but they're the compliance portion plus the knowledge that they'll bring as far as what other places are doing,
And
I
even the
think will
financial
be
portion.
beneficial.
the financial portion, I was impressed. They were really on top of their game, but anyway. I have a motion.
Yeah, that was my motion.
I have a second. I have a motion second to engage, and I assume the legal will put all that together. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of agreement with Moore Surveying Inc. regarding the survey work and site plans pending legal for the warehouse out at the sheriff's office. The addition.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And again, that will be done out of the bond, as I said in the email to them. No business claims?
I don't have anything today on it. I got a couple of questions I'll get with the auditor, but nothing. Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion, got a motion and a second. Any further?
Sheriff got out easy today.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner minutes 7/26/2021. Any corrections and or approval?
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Do we have anything else prior to public comment? If not, then I know that I think we have someone here for public comment. If you would like to
We
approach
have a couple people that
podium. I know I have one. Mr. Steele. And please limit the comments to 5 minutes if you would, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for your service to the Republic and for your time. We are at a crossroads in this country.
Hey, can you say your name and your address for the record, please?
I won't state my address, but I'll state my name,
Okay.
Michael Steele. We are at a crossroads in this country. The very soul of the Republic is in jeopardy. And as citizens, we will decide if we continue as a free society or one bound in chains by our overlords. We have elected and even unelected government bureaucrats who are forcing tyrannical anti-science mask mandates and other restrictions on the citizens of this country. In Johnson County, we are a beacon of freedom, a special place where corrupt Washington elitists do not get to dictate how we live and how we raise our families. Our elected officials and law enforcement have always stood firm in the breach to protect the citizens of Johnson County from those who may wish to tread on our rights. I am very proud to live here, and I choose to be part of this community and raise my children here because of the patriotic public servants we have. It all comes down to personal choice and personal liberty. Each individual has the right guaranteed them by their creator and enshrined in the Constitution to make choices about their health decisions as they see fit. If you want to wear a mask, wear one. If you do not, don't. If you want to get a vaccine, get a vaccine. If you don't. The science is very clear on this, but sadly you have to dig to find it because it has been suppressed by those drunk on power and ethically compromised by greed. Studies that the CDC and NIH themselves paid for before COVID struck showed overwhelmingly that masks do not work. But we have been lied to by the CDC and they continue to flip-flop. The CDC, as well as the state and local health departments, are not following their own science by trying to force masks on the population again. Instead, they use fear and propaganda to try and control us with mask mandates or potential vaccine mandates. This is what communists do, not Americans who love freedom. I implore you to not allow the Johnson County Health Department to try and push mask back on our children in Johnson County schools. And now there is a way you can stop them. Thankfully, the state legislature saw what was happening and passed Senate Enrolled Act 5, which is now state law. It takes the authority away from unelected health department bureaucrats and gives it to you, our elected officials, to stop their tyranny and poor judgment. They cannot pass these mandates without your approval. The buck stops with you. It is not only wrong what has happened in this country over the last year, but it is outright cruel that Americans have been forced to endure at the hands of their government and public health officials, closing businesses, children's education is being put on hold, Americans forced to die without the comfort of a loved one holding their hand. History will judge us for what we have allowed to happen, and it won't be kind. If this was their true goal, to protect the vulnerable population from COVID-19, they would pursue known treatments that not only prevent infection from up to 20 days out, but also reduce symptoms and reduce mortality. Drugs like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine with supplements of vitamin D and zinc. Both have scientific and peer-reviewed studies on their effectiveness, and they save millions of lives by good doctors who care more about their patients than in some cases their own career. Because these doctors have followed the science, they have become lepers in the medical community, who is beholden to big pharma and corrupt politicians. Why is the truth being suppressed? Because big pharma stands to gain billions of dollars for a vaccine that is now showing breakthrough cases, and those who have had the vaccine become super spreaders. Using known FDA-approved medicines like ivermectin only costs around $1 a day for treatment. How many of our residents have had and recovered from COVID and now have natural and long-lasting immunity as well? COVID-19 is not a threat to our community if we follow science and proven medicine. Please be the voice of reason. Uphold the oath to the Constitution that you swore when you were elected to defend freedom. Our rights do not stop during a pandemic or for any other reason. Regardless, it is up to us citizens to peacefully resist this tyranny. Do not comply. I hope the people wake up before it is too late, if it's not already. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Just come forward if you would, please. Oh. Yeah,
Sure. My name is John Simpson. I'm working on the Willow Lakes Drainage Project. I had some contact with Ron recently, and I'm going to kind of refer to an email I had sent on July 1st that I did not send it to all the commissioners, just Ron. Did you not get this, Ron? Is this something that you're familiar with? This is the only lengthy email I've ever sent. It's pretty lengthy.
Are you referencing remobilization and mobilization or demobilization?
And it was referenced in this email.
I didn't get it.
Okay.
I've not received anything.
Yeah, I
At least I
only
went
sent it.
back through my archives. I save all of your emails.
Sure.
Well, I save all of them from the Willow Lakes HOA. And I didn't find that, John. I'm
I
not
will-
saying you didn't send it, but I couldn't find it.
I will resend it. But basically what I'm here to say is, there in the beginning of July, we were full force. Every machine we needed, every worker that we had was there on site, doing everything we could to get that thing wrapped up. The conditions there are unsuitable for us to finish our work. It is unforeseen for us to think in the beginning of July that we can't do our work there. That is unforeseen. There's some things there that I don't think anybody can expect that goes on with the drainage there. We've seen it. I can't explain it. I've done that work for a very long time. Don't understand why. We had to demobilize. Now, Ron knows we left to go do another job. That work we were able to do and are almost finished with another job for the city of Bloomington. We did not leave the job at Willow Lakes to do our job in Bloomington. We left because the conditions were unsuitable. Now we're looking at a drier time. I had somebody up there last week with our smallest machine that flipped on its side because the ground wouldn't support the machine. So, is it suitable now? No. But, we've got to find a way to bring this job to a close. this is the definition of why we have mobilization and demobilization. We hadn't provided a schedule of values for the project where the value was scheduled. I don't think it's unreasonable. As I had said to Ron, I think we'll be back up there within a couple of weeks. And, you know, I do hope it continues to be dry and we don't see any rain whatsoever, because we need that site to dry up. And we know it does, because last year, we seeded the area in the late fall. And which brings me to one of my other concerns. I'm extremely familiar with the site at this point, have seen lots of different rain activity there. And I'm concerned that we're not going to be able to support grass growing there. We can seed it. We can do everything that to the best of our ability. But if that grass won't come in and won't stay seeded, we got to have rain for the grass to grow. But if you get rain over a ½ inch, it's going to wash the whole thing out. What happened to us last year, we lost all our mats. It was all done with straw mat. All the mats washed completely off the site. So I have some real concerns that the site is going to stabilize. That's an engineering issue. I can tell you what I think about it, but that's not our. We're there to. We're not there to make those calls on that, but I definitely need to bring it to your attention. Part of what hurts us there as well is the erosion control. We're heavy to try to make sure we're not getting any silt into our storm sewer there or under drain, and that reduces the effectiveness of the under drain or hybrid drain, whichever you want to call it. So we would like to have a change order to remobilize to the site so that we can keep working, get this thing finished up. There's 3 small items. That was part of this. I'll tell you what there are concrete collars around our storm structures. 2 of those that need to be poured. Both of them have had, and we have pictures beginning of July, water running into both of those. Then we have an area to be seeded, which is 14 feet by 300 or 400 feet. And we have 2 sections of sidewalk to replace after that work is done, so that we're not crossing any machines across that sidewalk.
Well, first off, and I've tried to work with John, obviously, this is the second wettest year we've had up until maybe the last couple of weeks. And so I was sympathetic to his situation in relation to the amount of rain we had. But as I told him in my last email, that his decision, and he was, I know he's up front with me. He had a project in Bloomington that he said he paid up to $10,000 in fines.
I'm paying $500 to be here today.
Okay, so anyway, but he needed to get down there and do that job. And I said, John, if you need to do that, then you go do that, and we'll wait for weather conditions to improve here, and hopefully you can get back up here. I still contend that his decision to do that had no relevance to our contract and our needs. That was his decision to do it, go do another job. So and I'll listen to whatever you want to say in regard to a change order, but I really don't believe that that's appropriate for our particular contract. So let me ask you this, John. We've got one particular area that he referenced that a guy put a machine on its side on, and
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. So my question to you is, are you saying to us that that can never be fixed?
No, we can fix anything.
Well, then if you can fix it, why haven't you fixed it?
Because, well, it's an unforeseen condition. It's unsuitable, not caused by us.
I understand unforeseen, but if you're telling me that you can fix it versus never can, then why can't you, or why haven't you?
Right now, we're waiting for it to dry. The reason that
But it's
there's
been
water
dry
in the
for 2
soil.
weeks.
There's a hydraulic issue in the soil there that, you know, we have installed what the engineer prescribed to do there. We've done all kinds of fixes for individual homeowners to try to dry up their problems with sump pumps.
So here's the thing, I would be more sympathetic to your request if you were to come to this body and say, listen, this is an unforeseen, this is what it's gonna take to fix it, this is how we gotta do it. And then maybe submit a change order in relation to that, but not pull off the job, go do another job and then come back and say that you want to do a change order for that. This project's been going on since March of last year. And there's more things than the 3 that you referenced. You still have the dam removal, I think. You still have some grading up in one area.
And when we
that-
say
that
dam,
we know about.
I'm considering that to be such a, first of all, I don't know that the dam should be removed. There's probably.
Understand what?
That what he's talking about is a check dam, which is, you know.
Whatever it is. I don't
A
know.
small amount of riprap that
Yeah.
myself, I could remove in less than an hour. So I don't even want to really
Okay.
count that. And that I believe the check dam in its current state provides a benefit, and leaving it there for a very extended period of time is the appropriate thing. And
Yeah,
I don't think
I
it
don't
should be
argue that.
considered
It's
in
just something
final
that needs to be
completion of
done.
the project.
So here's the other thing. I emailed John the other day and I said, give us, the commissioners, an estimated time of completion.
We've probably
Just
got.
let this thing go on forever.
No, this is a less than a week's worth of work, but I have to have the right conditions to do it. I mean, and that's what we haven't had.
It's dry as a bone out there right now. I don't know why.
At least one spot it's not. So, I mean, that's, sure, there's sections of it that are dry lots of times. One of the homeowners called me last week sometime and said, hey, whatever I gotta pay to get this fixed, because there's water coming out of the ground there. It's just water coming out of the ground. It has to do with I would guess that when that was a dairy farm, that they disturbed the soils, and things are going on there to create hydraulic issues.
Can we not divert? Can you not divert the water for a temporary period of time to get done what you need to get done?
If we have to, yes, and we were doing, the whole time we rip-wrapped the upstream ditch, yes, we ran pumps every day. We ran an extensive network to do that. We didn't get paid a dime to do it, and we should. If you're asking us to create that kind of diversion, took a lot of time, a lot of expense, you know, we know sooner or later things are going to dry up. That's the better answer. You know, let's do this work when it's dry. I mean, it takes an hour or two to pour the concrete around one of these collars. We're not talking about a substantial, you know, we've already done 12 others.
Well, but again, understand you said now with 2 weeks of total dry, or a little over 2 weeks with total dry, you still can't get in there to do it. It seems to me like the common sense proposition would be to divert the water from that area so it dries up to a point where you can fix it, and then you can just fix whatever you had to do to divert it.
That particular area is probably never going to dry up. We probably have to remove the soil and bring in new soil to be able to get through there. That's probably what that's going to take. Again, I'm not an engineer. Don't want to say I am.
If it's wet now, to bring in new soil, the new soil is going to get wet if it's some hydraulic problem.
Well, it's mucked. Okay, it's mucked from work that went on in the spring going through there. It's mucked from the constant flow of water going to it. You know, I would hope that, you know, take 2 or 3 feet of dirt out of there. It's not a big area. It's around a particular inlet that it just won't dry up. And we have found numerous other instances where there's just water coming out of the ground. A homeowner asked us to put in and trust me, I did not want to do any of this work for the homeowners. Didn't want to do it. Waste of my time. Cost me a ton of money. We did it to try to get the project done. we found numerous spots where just water coming out of the ground. Can't explain it. Water coming out of the ground.
I mean, I'd probably need a little bit more evidence from us that are and approve an open change order.
What I'm asking for is for mobilization, demobilization. We kept everybody there.
I gotta see all the facts. You need to write them all down and I need to see all the facts. I'm not gonna sit there and make a judgment call on demobilization, mobilization.
Okay,
I mean, I'm hearing you and Ron spar back and forth. I don't know who's right, who's wrong. I need to see a little bit more evidence of why you pulled off. I'm a general contractor. I understand that demobilization, mobilization.
cost me money.
Well, I mean, when you choose to pull off a job to go do another one, regardless of conditions, when you pull off that job, that's your decision. That's not our decision.
And
You
that's why
should have talked before that time and said,
I hate writing emails. This was the only one
I haven't seen the email. I haven't read it. So, I mean, I need a little bit more information. If it was mucked up in May, June, you're telling us you could have did the work in May, June, not been in this position today, maybe I'd understand that. But now we wait till July. Now you've already done the deed, and now you're asking for cost increase. So I gotta see more evidence before I would make a decision on that.
I'm happy to forward you this email.
I mean, you can, and
I know we have the photos that were taken
when
approximately.
you send
July
the
1st.
email, send it to our attorneys and us three,
Gotcha.
if you would. Don't send it to one at this time.
And I've said this to John before, anything that I can do personally and we as a body can do to help him get this thing done, we're willing to do.
Sure.
It's not that we're being stubborn in that regard, but this thing needs to get done. And we, as Commissioner Wall said, send us some numbers, give them the information you think they need to make a decision on your request. We'll look at it. We need to get it done. And if we can help you in that regard, we're going to do that. But if it's
I've done
something we don't think we're responsible for, obviously we can't do that.
I've done 18 bonded projects, numerous other
I know.
large municipal projects. Two things I've never had happen. Two things. One, I've never had my bond threatened ever. I was threatened twice on this job for my bond. And I've never had a entity decline my pay application. It's the first time that's ever happened. So
We didn't decline it. I had you redo it. We declined the one, but you redid it and we approved that one. All right.
I
Maybe the
I
fact
have
that you
most-
had your bond threatened twice ought to tell you something.
suspect I took something different away than what was anybody's else's intention. But I have more at stake here to want this done than anybody else. I want it done. I didn't call any of the Willow Lakes guys here, but they could tell you, we were there trying every day, all spring long, where we could have been on other jobs that didn't require such a particular set of conditions, and we could have been doing other work, but we were stuck there and we stayed with it. We stayed with this job. All the changes, all the different things that we had to do, we stuck with it at our detriment. So, I think we've gone way above and beyond in this. Whether we have an agreement there or not, I don't know. I will get you all more information.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
But come on forward.
It's a charm today.
Good morning. My name's Linda Teeter and I live at 445 West Jefferson Street, just right up the street. I had your secretary because I am not, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I am
pull it
not-
down a little bit. There you
Okay.
go. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, Linda Teeter, and I just live right up the street and been in Franklin all my life. I had an idea that I started with the Christmas decorating people, and I found out through talking to about 4 different people that I needed to approach you all. And yes, thank you for your service. I can see you go through a lot. Anyway, this idea that I had was I thought that it would look really nice at Christmas time if we could have a candle in each one of the windows of the courthouse. I have no idea how many windows there are. I have no idea how much it costs. And the reason I thought it would look so nice is because the north side of our courthouse. Oh, first of all, did you guys get my email? Your secretary sent it? Okay,
Yeah, I
great.
saw your letter.
Great, great. Well, then, yeah, it was more than just an email, I guess. Anyway, but the north side of the courthouse is so very dark. And I've seen people, of course, I'm right here. I've seen people after the Christmas lighting being wrestling around kids and being in the dark part of that yard. I don't know if anybody's noticed it. I know right now you got to be about 10:30 to see how dark it is. But I really felt like, because of my ideas, why I'm here, because I've been thinking this ever since we put in the new lights, that the courtyard was entirely too dark. And again, I don't know how much money it would cost to put maybe some floodlights in to brighten up the building, but it would have to make the building look better, because all those trees, and they're beautiful, but they block out what little light we've got out of those new lights. So that's my two things. I think the courthouse yard is too dark, and I would love to see somebody put up a little money to get candles in the window at Christmas time. Do I need to do anything else to get this idea across?
No, that's a good idea.
Well, see, I started with the Christmas people, and they pushed me along, which they were all nice, and I gave them my ideas too. But they said the real money and the real deal had to come from y'all.
Obviously, we spent a lot of money refurbishing the courthouse, and it is a beautiful building. And so
It is.
anything to enhance it would.
If you
would be
will
a
come through
positive.
town about 10 o'clock and just look where all our new lighting goes,
Yeah.
because it lights up the street, it looks pretty, but when you actually look at the north side of the courthouse, it could be the Addams family as far as that goes. And, you know, it used to be, you could see the courthouse all the way around it, and it was really, really pretty. But, and our gorgeous new lights just don't do the job. Well, thank you, and I hope you guys can do something about it. Maybe. I'll look for improvements. Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else?
Good morning. My name is Heather McMurray. I hadn't planned on talking. I just wanted to follow up with the masks and the COVID-19. Putting our kids back into masks after, I want to get across one of the things that my school is not doing. So when you get urged to say, this is, we're seeing rises, we've got to do this. My daughter's third grade class, instead of being 3 feet apart, 2 feet apart, like they were last year. We walk in to take school supplies. They are triangulated desks, and they're arranged right next to each other in a pattern, the way they would have been 10 years ago when there was nothing going on, or 2 years ago when there was nothing going on. They've loosened the restrictions so much, it's almost like they wanted to create a reason to do the masks again. You know, if it's so important, and I know the conversation is coming with our school. I know it is. I know for a fact. What we're here to ask for is that you make sure that that choice stays with the parent and not a school board. My daughter complained of headaches. She had severe anxiety. She was on the floor crying, now hates school. I mean, I'm trying to overcome issues with her, and I'm not the only one. I've went to many school board meetings around Johnson County, and there are a lot of parents facing the same issues. We're still trying to get our kids to recover from last year. Taking them out of masks and then asking to put them back in masks. It's not fair. And I just want to implore that before you as a board hear from the health department or other schools, you know, school leaders, just know that they relaxed so much that there's no reason for them to come now and say, we need to mask. Because again, you know, 4th and 5th grade, they move around. That's when they start going to other teachers to learn how to do middle school and high school. Our school system now does K through 3. My daughter goes to 3 different teachers, sits in 3 different sets of desks every day. That started this year. If we were so worried about the spread, why are we doing things that don't look like we're worried about it? And then we're going to put that burden of masks back on our kids. So I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just wanted to let you know before you get bombarded with people saying, oh, well, this is so important that we, you know, we're seeing a spread. Well, you're helping to cause that spread by the things that you put in place. Does that make sense?
Understood.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, obviously, if you've been very attentive to our meetings in the past, going all the way back to early in 2020, you could go ahead and sit down now.
I just wanted to add one more thing.
Okay.
I really appreciated when you opened with a prayer and that you hope our generation coming up is raised with the values that we were raised on. Thank you,
You're welcome.
because I do too.
Well, I didn't really put you in that elderly category, but I'll let you make that
I'm old
decision.
enough to see the distinct difference.
Yeah,
Um,
but going back to early in the year 2020, this body, I think I can speak for it. I know for myself, we've been opposed to what government has done in restricting rights and freedoms of the American people. In the beginning, I know they were subject to making decisions without any real basis because of the newness and the nature of what they were dealing with. But shortly therein, it was apparent what they were doing was not only not appropriate, but not able to accomplish what they were trying to accomplish in stemming the spread of this virus. We've shared the same opinion that you both have expressed, that it should be a personal responsibility. We still adhere to that. Some counties, I have a letter that was sent from St. Joseph County in which they oppose mask mandates, especially in the schools. I think we're in a position where maybe we're going to think about composing a similar letter stating our stance on that. If you look at history and what we've experienced over the past 18 plus months, masks do not and have not worked. There was an extreme push for vaccination. I've been vaccinated. I took that measure for my own personal protection. And now they're saying that that was kind of a waste of time, that these new variants are going to reinfect people. But what you don't hear today much of, and what they used, and I'll say they, the CDC and some other medical authorities, what we heard in the early months was the mortality rate, the rapid rate that people were dying from exposure to this virus. And even I contend that that was hugely overstated, the death rate during that period of time. But that, I think that was used to scare the general public into submission and acquisition of their rights and freedoms by the government, or usurpation. Anyway, when you take that forward to today, what we see now is for government to be able to control us again, they have to come up with a new some. And the new one is, well, this new variant is going to affect everything. Everybody's going to get infected by it. But what you don't hear today, especially in the news, is the mortality rate. And so if you're going to be exposed to anything in life, then there's no real fear of death. And the symptoms or the effects of whatever that virus might be are minimal, especially in children. We know today that in children that it's rare that they get it. And when they do, it's short term, no real effects, major effects. Now, what you will get is extreme examples where, and I got an email from a lady who's in the medical profession, and she was citing these extreme examples of children contacting the virus and even some of them dying from it. Well, yeah, I believe that. I don't deny that. But those are extreme examples. But you look at the overall population of this country and what we're witnessing today in as much as those who are contracting the virus, the effects that they're having from it, the rapid recovery, and the mortality rate is absolutely ridiculous for any government agency to enforce any kind of a restriction on an individual. I go back to the personal responsibility, personal choice. If you want to be 100% safe from maybe never contracting this virus, then lock yourself in your house and don't leave. But you've got no right to ask me to lock myself in my house and never leave in relation to that. And so I oppose any kind of health organization or health departments mandating any kind of mask mandates on the general population, especially children. When you put a child in a mask for 6 or 8 hours a day, I don't know, I'm not a professional in that, but it's got to have a detrimental effect. If nothing else, just the loss of facial expression. Think about this for a minute. If we all walk around with masks on, before long we become Ottomans. We're not personal people. We're not individualized. We can't express ourselves through smiles or frowns. Just the absence of that in our societal association, to me, is a huge detriment. It's something that we need to witness as human beings. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
You see, I am wearing a mask. Here, I have been vaccinated. I work part-time out at the hospital. Oh, you're having trouble hearing me again. I said I have been vaccinated. In fact, I took my shot before Christmas and the second one right after. And I work part-time at the hospital, and one of my boss's husbands is so bad with the sickness right now. We'd had him out there for a while and they transferred him up to the city. Still don't know if he's going to make it or not. The thing I want to tell you about the children, and I respect what they're saying and I respect what you're saying too, but the children under 12 are probably taught whether they're going to wear a mask by their parents, and obviously not everybody agrees.
Right.
But my grandson is 9. And I'm sure you have grandchildren, and those children under 12 can't get a vaccine if they want one. And some parents wouldn't let them get them if they did want them. But I don't want us missing Susie and Johnny's face for the school day to be more important than my grandson or your grandson dying. And it could happen. There is difference of opinion of how fast this is, and there is a difference of opinion of how many people have died. But the one child I don't want to die is my grandson.
Of course.
And he's at Northwood.
Of course.
So I would say that if you are given the ability to say whether the health people think the kids should be wearing masks in school, I think this mask might help. And if it might help, then they should do it. I get the people that are radical about, oh, government's telling us when to do this and when to do that. Well, when you have something this crazy that's going on all the way around the world, why in the world wouldn't you do the little things to maybe save a kid's life? Thank you so much for your time again.
And I think the key word in your description there is might. Might work, might not. And I think when you look at what we've seen now, the data that's been being provided, we can substantiate through actual numbers that masks haven't worked. And so if we can prove that they haven't worked through data, then why try to force that on an individual? If you feel comfortable with it, and you do, of course, you have one on, that's great. I don't have a problem with that. And if somebody wants to be vaccinated or not, that's purely their decision. But you can't go around forcing your decisions on other people.
Well, I was just asking that you don't give up what decision has been put in your hands, because from what I understand, if you make the decision that we wear them in school, that'll be the last word. I mean, because the health has been taken away from their power, it'll be you because you're elected officials. And I just want you to know that there are some people out there that don't want any child to die.
Oh, yeah.
Or to be very sick, be very, very sick. Like I say, I know what's going on out there. I hear what's going on in the city. Trust me, there are people very, very sick, very that you would not want to see. And it's nice to sit in an air conditioning building and say, hey, we're all healthy, it's cool. Well, it's not that way everywhere. And I don't think they can, schools are little petri dishes. They can clean all day and they're gonna have germs. So just don't take away. I mean, these things are cheap. And if it would help, especially for someone that can't make up their own mind about whether to get a shot or not, I'd appreciate you guys going that way.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I know you got something to say.
Oh,
Betsy, I thought was coming forward.
no way, right? I'm not gonna go into a long summation, but what I will say is that I was elected by the people of Johnson County to serve the public, and I don't think it's my right or decision to tell these people in this county what they need to do or not to do with their health. That is their decision. If I want to die by the hands of COVID, that's my problem. I've had it. I'm not afraid of it. Some people get it worse than I got it. Some people react to it differently than I did. I did not have that bad of an ordeal, other than I took too much melatonin. But that just put me in limbo for a few days. But anyway, it's what you believe is what you believe. The facts that you believe are a personal decision. On those facts, I believe in, and people like Dr. Dan Stock that has been speaking to school boards around the state and understand what he is saying. And I've researched everything that I need to research to be comfortable in my decisions and what I believe. And nothing I've heard overrides the fact that it's a personal choice and the right of an individual to make that choice for their own health. We want to stick to the my body, my choice on everything else, but this, for some reason, and I'm just going to say it, and I don't care if it's written in the paper or not, we abort millions of children a year under my body, my choice. I don't believe that they care about me enough to worry about whether I wear a mask or not. It's not about their concern for my health. It's about their ability to tell me what I can and can't do. So that's where I'm at. But everybody has the right to live their life like they want to live their life. That is their choice, unless they're breaking laws that are under the regimen of those officials that make those laws. And those don't go against the constitutional value that we gave our oath to. Then I will follow those laws. When they would go against the constitutional value that I believe in, I will not. And that's just where I stand. So as a member of this Board of Commission, I would never vote for a mask mandate in this county. And that's just the way it is. It's the way it's been from day one with me. And that's all I have to say. Personal choice. You?
Oh, I can argue all day long, but it's 2-1, so I'll leave it at that.
Well, the late Dr. Walter Williams may have put it best when he gave the example that there's somewhere around 60,000 people a year that die in automobile accidents. He said if we were to reduce the speed limit to 5 miles an hour, we'd probably save all of those lives. But nobody would buy into that because it's not reasonable in the expectation. And that's kind of where I'm at in some of these precautions that they want the general population to take. When you get the mask, I talked to Dr. Dunkel Friday, called him to discuss some of this. And the N95 or whatever it is that the nurses and doctors wear are really do offer a degree of protection. So I'm thinking, well, if they do, then how come the CDC and the State Department of Health and others aren't saying this is what you need to wear? This is the only thing we're going to make available, and all of these little masks that people make out of their underwear or socks or whatever are not effective. So to me, that takes the seriousness out of what these agencies are really trying to promote. When they say mask, mask what? I mean, a piece of duct tape or something that this lady's wearing, or something even more significant. I would assume that there are masks you could put on where nothing could get through, in or out. A mask that you might want to wear if you were going in a gas chamber, not some of these. Nobody would put one of those on and go in a gas chamber, right? Hell, you'd be dead within a few minutes. So I just think that the government's got a long way to go to obtain any kind of credibility now, given what we've experienced over the last 18 months. They're here, they're there, up, down. I don't think they know, and for them to impose any kind of will or restriction on American people at this point in time is absurd. I'm done.
Oh,
Thanks for being
minds and
here.
hearts free and clear.
We really do respect your opinions.
And there is a K-95 that's very effective. K-95 is very effective.
Yeah, there's a Shima 97 mask too that's really, really effective, and a lot of your sports people play it, but they wouldn't let me get on an airplane with that, but they'd let somebody get on an airplane with bandana around their face. Yes.
I don't want any child to die either, but everybody dies of an illness. There are, my mom got cancer, but I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. I respect your opinions, I applaud them. But again, when we look at what schools are doing, it's okay to play football and wrestle and have basketball and have saliva going in each other's faces, but for Johnny and Susie who are sitting 3 feet apart, they still have a mask. And in my daughter's circumstances, was not able to wear her glasses that she needed to wear all year to correct the vision problem that will now be probably permanent because of the depth perception issue. She had a short time span to keep those glasses on and wear them. She couldn't see because they kept fogging up, even with anti-fog on. So I would have rather her been able to have depth perception and have her job opportunities and careers be endless versus now she's limited on what she will be able to do probably because that depth perception won't really be corrected. That's just one case. I mean, I respect your opinion. I thank you for letting us talk about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Move to adjourn.
I'm gonna prolong it a little bit longer. Second.
Go ahead.
I figure somebody's gonna get checked. So.
We need to make a clarification. I've been texted, someone texted me that the lady from Franklin for the band was saying Thursday, August 30th.
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday.
Yeah.
And just for clarification for record on the minutes, August 30th is a Monday that they're requesting for that, not a Thursday. And thank you, Bob Galinsky, our security guy, for texting me with that because I missed it. I have a motion, a second to adjourn. We're adjourned.
Talk to you for a second.